Well, nearly every pet owner has dealt with this at least once. The family is off at school and work, and that means separation anxiety causes their pets to make a mess around the house. Brooke is sitting down asking questions as students are back in school that leaves pets alone at home for longer periods of time. Brooke?
Well, joining me now is the president and CEO of the Greater Dayton Humane Society, Brian Welke. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, separation anxiety in pets. We know that summer is a popular time for people to adopt pets or bring a new family member in because they have all of this time on their hands. So what happens when these people go back to work and school? What are the animals experiencing?
Oh my gosh. Well, many animals experience some stress. Animals are creatures of habit. They love routine, and as soon as you start breaking their routine or changing the routine, it can cause some stress. The stress can be something very, very mild where you may not even notice it to something very extreme, and I think people can experience that spectrum. So it's important to make sure you identify what might be happening in your home with your pet, and what are the signs and symptoms of some of the stress that dogs and cats might have.
And let's dive into that next, because we know that pets can often tear up the house or they have that anxiety and it's coming out. What would be some of those signs that families should be noticing if their animal's experiencing separation anxiety?
So first of all, cats and dogs can both experience that stress. I think it's much more prevalent in dogs than in cats. But for dogs, you can see drooling, you can see scratching, you can see chewing on their feet or their skin. They can chew up things in homes and be very destructive on the extreme cases. And so it is something very serious, and people get very upset with it, as they should. But it's usually because the dog is just stressed, and there are ways to calm that stress.
Yeah, so I was going to say next steps. I know there's probably medication that the animals can take, but there's probably something you should do first. So what would be your first step if you notice that your animal's having those signs?
So first thing I would do is make sure that people, I would encourage people to go see a veterinarian. And the reason I would say that is because sometimes the stress can come forward if there's a physical problem, a urinary tract infection, some sort of skin allergies. Those kinds of things can cause or mimic what would cause stress in a dog, not just necessarily the routine that has changed. And so assuming your dog is healthy or your animal is healthy, there are things that you can do to try to alleviate the stress. One is to make sure that you frequently come and go from the house for very short periods of time so they get used to you leaving and coming so it's not as stressful for them. Make sure they have things to chew on. You can put them into a safer space if there's crate training available. There's sometimes people put them in a room with a little gate that makes them feel secure. People can put on music to kind of mask some of the noises they may hear when they're alone. Making sure they're exercised before you leave is really a great one, and making sure they're fed before you leave, because if you take care of the food and the exercise, they're much more relaxed and can actually sustain you leaving in those change of patterns.
I want to burn off some of that excess energy. I know. We know students and parents are getting ready to head back to class. We want to get those pets back into a routine too. Brian Welke, the president and CEO of the Greater Dayton Humane Society, thank you for being with us tonight.
My pleasure.
We appreciate it.